Blender.Today live another week. We are here together with Blender updates again. Once again, last week we dedicated the entire live stream to the asset manager, the post libraries part improvement of the asset browser. How did you like that episode? Do you like that every now and then we do like a special, like a 1 hour just talking with the developers focused only on one section of Blender in particular, or one big update? Because sometimes we try to maybe cram every update that week, and you know, some of them are bigger than others. Some of them are like months of work that just go like that because because there's other updates to share. So if you like it, please let me know in the comments and also give it a thumbs up. And okay, let's get to it. There is what kind of announcement? No, not so many announcements. I have a question now that I look at myself here with the blue. I don't know if you remember this t-shirt. It's been in the store many years ago. It's kind of a joke for the older Blender users, because Blender used to have a blue background by default. The world color was blue and the default cube. So this is what you would see if you were using Blender 2.7, 6, 5, 4. An old one, and we were thinking about making them again because they're no longer for years in the store. But I don't know if people would be interested in it. If you are, let me know. Or an older one, like the import BPY one, that was also cool. It's no longer in the store. That being said, let's get to it. Okay, so I'm gonna go through the announcements, but before that, before starting with the announcements, actually I just wanted to say that this episode is sponsored by some big large company. No, I'm kidding. There were big news last week shared in the community, and people were going nuts once again about Blender's license. I hope we don't have to reiterate that again ever. The community did a great job addressing the fact that Blender is and will always be open source forever. That's in the license, so I don't think we have to tackle that here. And let's get some news. It's also interesting to see that there's still confusement regarding the license. So it's something on our side that we have to make the text bigger. That when you get in Blender.org, you see a large free forever, because it's apparently hard to grasp that it's forever for reals. We're streaming live, by the way. We're going to be answering questions towards the end of the show, so thanks to Sansul for making this thread. If you want to ask questions, make sure you drop in blender.community and go to the today post here. Okay, that being said, let's start. Before continuing, there is a small announcement regarding Steam and the Snap stores. If you use Blender through Snap on Linux or through Steam in any platform, there is good news for you, especially if you watch this show, because you know we always use the latest experimental master branch. They are now available as a beta for testing on Steam and Snap, so you can get a new experimental, dangerous, you shouldn't use on your own risk version of Blender on your computer every day. There are instructions in the description here in the video, but also in the wiki, which is basically linking here for Steam. You only have to change I think in the betas, you have to set it to auto test development alpha in this case. So yeah, it's gonna be a new Blender on your computer every night. It's gonna have a new Blender, so handle with care. Remember, like not long ago, actually, there was an update that it would make it so if you save files with Blender 3.0 and then you for some reason open Blender 2.93, then you'll get a warning because there was a change in how the mesh data is handled, and you will lose some data if you save a file with 3.0 alpha and then for some reason open it in 2.93, there will be some data loss. So careful. Okay, that is all. The big news last week was the asset browser, the post library. But it's not only about the post library. Actually, the branch that had this change actually also introduced a whole lot of updates in the asset browser itself. That it's great for everything, not only for the post library, but also for any other kind of assets, for the new upcoming grease pencil assets, or for add-ons that make use of this asset browser in the future. So for example, there is now the assets, now they can the asset library can be set per workspace. So that's fantastic. It's when you are switching from, I don't know, the shading workspace, you can have the asset library of your materials. Then you go to layout and you're gonna have an asset library for models, for example. So you can have it very, yeah, it's easier to manage. I think this, together with the library for not library, but the change that you could pin a scene to a workspace, that would make it heaven-like. I'm waiting for that patch. It was around, I don't know, it didn't make it to Blender yet, but I'm waiting for that one. Okay, more updates. The asset browser sidebar now shows the asset path, so you can find it more easily. And also in the asset list as part of the asset system design. This is already what we shown last week, but here you can read more. Again, all links are in the description of this video or in the wiki notes also. It's mainly regarding the API in case you are making add-ons that want to make use, or making your own scripts that want to make use of the asset browser. Okay, that is all for the asset manager for now. Actually, there are more updates in terms of UI, but let's go into the title of this show, actually, performance. I wanted to call it performance because it is the largest section of news I have to share this week, all over the board. Such as, let's start. This one, I want to hear a cheering. You know, if we were on Twitch, people will be cheering. On YouTube is kind of boring, so you just Twitch just share with emojis the excitement about the faster edit mode, which is always welcome, but now for Autosmooth. That is one big part that was missing in the edit mesh project to speed up the editing of meshes in general. This case, for example, multi-threaded Autosmooth sharp edge calculation. How much faster? Well, this change combined with the other one, with the one that I'm going to show now, it makes the calculating of the normals around 5.6 times faster, almost 5.7 times faster, with an overall speed up of 2.6 when transforming a high poly mesh. So over twice as fast, thanks to multi-threading. So the more threads you have is gonna make more of a difference. That's fantastic. And look at the other commit that he is linking here, that Campbell is linking. It's so again, multi-threaded, Autosmooth, and custom normal calculations. So if you have a high poly mesh, and especially if you use custom normals, you're gonna have more, you're gonna benefit more from this improvement. How much has improved? From 3.5 to 10 times faster. Up to 10 times faster. Calculating the normals. That's I don't know if it's this enough a reason to make Autosmooth default, but at least for some of the meshes, like if you add a cylinder, it should be on by default. In some of them, not always, because it's still slower to calculate Autosmooth than not, because you have to basically on every transform you have to recalculate the normals. But for some primitives, it could be on by default. Okay. That is with the Autosmooth. There is more in terms of Booleans, such as, for example, here, the la une improvements when you have a lot of holes. Let's leave it at that. Yeah, let's be mature and let's talk about these meshes with a lot of holes. So, how much faster do you think is this upgrade? It's this update is in this patch by part of the patch of Eric Abrahamson and Howard Tricky. These guys are now like the team speed in terms of the of Boolean updates and edit mesh. Look at the text regression test. So on a text object, the time calculating this went from 11.6 seconds to 0.16. Can someone in the crowd calculate how many times faster is that? That sounds like a lot. So over 11 seconds to a 10th of a second, but a 20th. That's quite fast. Please calculate and let me know, because there is more, even close to 100%, 100 times faster, right? That's insane. That's 250 times. Another improvement in again in the Delenade Raycasting here from Eric. This uses parallel loops for raycasting. One example with many crossings of a Bezier curve. So if you have a Bezier curve that crosses itself multiple times, the calculation went from 0.68 seconds to 0.28 seconds. That's crazy fast. Okay, so I'm reading here the numbers. So it's about 100 times, 73 times, 2 times, 900 times. Okay, it's a bit of I see math is our thing. Okay, let's continue with more updates. Here again, Delenade.Today. This one doesn't have a number, like specific number. I guess it's again not every calculation can be made very specific in terms of like my orders of magnitude that is get improved. On a text sample, again, not tracking the IDs. So I guess this is the optimization. Saves around 30% of the runtime. What? Again, it only really kicks in if there are a lot of holes. So yeah, holy meshes, rejoice. It's a bunch of updates for you. Okay, that didn't sound right. Okay, more edit mesh. So this is not regarding booleans. This is just regular editing of a mesh when you're using the number slider. So when you're using any slider, not with shortcuts, but when sliding. Settings, transform, for example, the partial updates make it so it gives around a 1.4 times faster on high poly meshes. Again, that's if you add up everything that we just saw, it's crazy, and it's not even there, like it's not even done yet. Okay, another improvement by Germano Cavalcante. This is I guess it's smaller, but again, with the more updates the better. Extract triangles in parallel ranges. Let's go to the numbers better. Again, it's multi-threaded. So here, let's see. So large mesh editing materials, it went from 13.8 frames per second to 15 frames per second. Wait, FPS. So what is it? Is it higher FPS? Yeah. So it actually improves it, makes it faster here at the calculation. Okay, so this is the confusing part. Like the numbers are smaller here because this is a patch. So what it used to take 71 milliseconds, now it's 64. And the frames per second went from 13.8 to 15.25. So yeah, 2 more frames per second. Again, once you see all of these updates together, something like this, only 2 frames per second. Yeah, if you keep adding all of them. Look at this one, the undo. So not only you can make messes with your meshes and your holes in your meshes, but also you can make mistakes. And if you undo those mistakes, it's gonna be faster. So you can make mistakes faster. Here, how much faster? Well, for example, here, edit mode. When you're in edit mode and undo, the face normals calculation is now multi-threaded. So it gives around an 11% speed up on a mesh with 1.5 million polygons. That's quite big. Also, edit mode apparently was calculating a bit too much. In some cases, the undo steps was being performed twice. So okay, that's a big issue. In some cases you need it though. It's when you are like sculpting, painting, or when you're editing text, you know, you have the settings that you tweak, but also you have the text that you input on your object. So sometimes it has to be quite, it requires an extra step, although it's not for every mode. So actually, for example, when you're editing a mesh, now undo should be twice as fast because it doesn't have to calculate. Yeah, it only calculates it once. So twice as fast. Interesting. All right, let's continue. I'm checking out the chat. How did the discussion about that where I'm from, Patagonia, a region of the extreme south, has even snow? Yeah, we got snow, we got penguins, we got everything. It's actually like not so far from Antarctica, from the peninsula Antarctica. The next improvement, okay, so we covered everything that has to do with edit mesh, with Booleans. Also, the compositor is now faster, and we've seen these improvements in the last few weeks, that most of the nodes now are getting about 2 or 3 times faster, such as the render layers node, which is something that you use for like 99% of the time because you need a render layer node, unless you're using images, but 2.5 times faster. The ellipse mask node also is 3 times faster to calculate that node. The brightness node as well, this is a new node, it's 2.4 times faster. Mix node, this one's popular, this one is 2.3 times faster. And how about the movie clip node? It's twice as fast now. Okay, enough with the compositor. Actually, there were more improvements in the compositor, and there is even a branch now that I think it's tackling more of those nodes in a separate branch to work on it there and then merge them back to master. So these that I just mentioned, they are in master right now. You can use them in the experimental builds. There is more work being done on a branch though. So we're gonna see a bunch of nodes at once in the future. Not too far from future though. Okay, let's switch topics to rigid bodies. Substantial improvement in speed for rigid body, copy from active operator. This basically was being done on in Python, which we know that it's not the it can be slow, it can get slow. It's convenient, but it can be slow. So taking that action, copy from active, I'm using C, like built-in C code. How much faster do you think it is? Okay, so on a MacBook, on an Intel MacBook, an operation that used to take 60 seconds, so 1 minute to calculate, now this patch is about 0.3 seconds. So less than half a second for something that used to take a minute. That, thank you, Yanagadan Ravi. I haven't seen you around. This is your first patch? No, you had some other patches. So, well, thank you. Like, that's crazy. From 1 minute to less than half a second. I wonder how much more of that is left in Blender. Okay, that was for rigid bodies, copy from active. Now there are also updates in rigging. Well, more for the constraints or modifiers. Surface deform is a modifier that gets used a lot for rigging. So I guess it's also for riggers, but you can use it for pretty much anything. And especially now because it's actually much faster. Surface deform, now it's gonna skip those vertex weights that don't have any weight. So apparently it was calculating everything. Now it's gonna skip those. So it's hard to measure how much faster it is, but this is gonna save because it depends on how many vertices on your mesh have no weight or 0 weight. Now this saves everything from memory, from disk space, and CPU cycle. So it's faster, uses less space, less memory. It's just amazing. Okay, so that was a big chunk of performance improvements. That it's all over the place. I'm so happy to like when Blender 3 was, you know, announced a few years ago, that it will happen so fast, that it was already 2021 Blender 3, and I was a bit scared. It was like, okay, what are we gonna do? It's not like that big of a jump. What is gonna be the big thing of Blender 3? But now, since with all the performance improvements that we've seen since 2.93 until now, and Cycles X, that I'm more than happy to say that Blender 3's big feature is gonna be performance. There's like, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's for the, maybe not for 3.0, but for 3.1, maybe there will be improvements. There is work being done on, hold on to your papers, like Dr. Carroll will say, faster subdivision surface GPU based. Just saying, it's coming. It's somebody, it's being worked on, but I don't want to spoil anything. But maybe not for 3.0, but maybe later, hopefully. Okay, what a time to be alive, yes. Okay, let's switch quickly into geometry nodes, because there is so much to go through here. My favorite feature of this week, of last week, is socket inspection. So have you ever wondered what is the value that is coming out of this socket? What is it? How much? And what type is it? Is it a float, a vector, a number, a what? So now let's see. Now if you mouse over a socket, you're gonna see a lot of info available there. How many vertices, how many edges, how many faces, how many instances, if there is any, curves, yeah, pretty much anything. This video is a bit outdated, but you get the idea. You change a value, for example, and you get to see it when you mouse over. I could actually just show it here. I think I have it. I have Blender here. I compiled it yesterday. No, today. But yeah, just leave the mouse over, and you're gonna get some information about your mesh. And this is awesome. Even here. Well, you need to have it. You have to be connected to something. You can't just not have it. So here you can see through Boolean, because it's a viewport. It's not always gonna be the viewport unless you render, right? Yeah, just awesome. I like also here the example where Jack was changing it from the modifier settings, and that you can still see it here in the node editor. So it means that even with this closed, you can see here what is the value. It's awesome. On the inputs too, yeah, inputs and outputs. Thanks, Bruno, in the chat for the reminder. This is just fantastic. Thank you, Jack. This will make working with geometry nodes so much better, such as this improvement by Hans Goody. He made it so now the errors that are also shown in the nodes themselves when something is not right, now they're also going to be shown in the modifier. So this example is a bit extreme. Like, you don't usually, if you have this many issues, you will probably tackle them before it looks like this. But so now you have an extra place where you can read here. It would be cool in the future. An update is like, maybe you can click on it here and it will take you to the node in the node editor that was discussed here as part of the patch. But it's just awesome. Let's continue. Okay, time for the new nodes alert. New nodes. Okay. How many new nodes we have this week? We have 3 new nodes. They're all related to curves. First one, curve, is a new curve primitive, quadrilateral. So a quad, basically. It gives you, for example, if you want to make a square, rectangle, trapezoid, a kite, or parallelograms, now you can use this new node, quadrilateral. There's also a node for curves. It's a trim node, so allows you to cut a curve from the start and end points. So it's similar to when you make a curve, basically, that you give it a start and end point. You're gonna use the same concept in this new node. And last but not least, there is this node that adds a lot of flexibility. It's managed by Johnny Matthews. It lets you change the Bezier handle type node. So it's very straightforward. It's something that you would do with the V key in edit mode for curves. Now you can do it with a node. Lets you choose left or right, the type, and the selection, so where you to apply this effect. Super neat. What else? Next is the, okay, this one is more UI. It's part of the UI of the node editor. Again, I love this one, and I love it the most when Jack works in user interface improvement. It's like, you know, it's gonna be great. Look at this. Look at this video. So, ever had this kind of, I wouldn't say a mess, I would say piece of art on your nodes setup, that you have these cables that go all over the board? Well, to make it easier to navigate this, the cables, the noodles that are not, that where you can't see the start or the end connection, so where they start or where they end, are gonna be dimmed. They're gonna be drawn a bit more transparent, so they're not so much in your face. And also the interaction with them is gonna be limited. So in this, for example, here, the cables that are go in the back, they are, that it means that they're not related to the nodes that you see. So when you're trying to use, for example, a reroute, or you want to cut a noodle with a shortcut, it's not gonna affect the noodles in the background, so less prone for mistakes. And it even fades in and out. So cool. Awesome. Thank you, Jack, for working on this. And okay, time to move. Since this is a bit of UI, let's go back into another section. Let's switch into user interface. And I'm going back a bit into the asset browser improvements that we saw last week, but this is more general. I mentioned that there is a new UI template for the asset browser, and that it allows you to show the assets on the sidebar. This is gonna be great. It's already being used for the post library, but it's gonna be great for people making add-ons. So if you make add-ons, go check out the add-ons for the post library and see how it's done. So you apply it there, and everything looks unified. So your add-on looks unified with Blender. Super cool. Python API. It's just great. Especially great because now the previews in the UI layout. So when I say UI layout, I mean UI list, sorry. This is a UI list, right? Allows you to search, allows you to have text and icons, but also not a lot of people know that here you can also have thumbnails. You can have little squares, little previews. So you could have, actually, I don't know if I should risk it and try to do it here. Let's see, it didn't work. Yeah, I can do it here. Huh. No, I'm gonna mess up with this. I think it's layout. Oh, I don't have the right. Here, grid? Is it grid? No, it was something else. But I think it was layout, or maybe the API changed. Yeah, it is here, grid. It's a more usable of the existing grid layout type. Huh, might be doing something wrong here. But basically you change the layout type, and it will just look as like a little squares, little thumbnails. And the Pablo showing off, yeah, trying to show off That's what I was trying to do. But I don't know what am I doing wrong, because I think it's, or maybe the template list it needs the type. But yeah, basically it used to work like this. If if I have the system console, it's gonna tell me. Okay, maybe not. Never mind. Oh, it's a type, maybe. It's a type. I'm not gonna mess up with this. You guys try at home. Okay, the next improvement is that now you can search. You can quickly search on... What did I break? Okay, here. Now you can quickly search. Look at this beautiful way of telling you that something is crashing. It goes white. So if you're working late at night with the dark theme on, the app goes white. Who's a brilliant mind who decided that? Now you can Control F the mouse with the mouse over a UI list, and it's gonna start searching. That it's super cool. For example, here, let's say I have a vertex group, and you don't have to expand and click here. You can just basically, as you go here, Control F, and it's gonna center it's gonna focus the cursor in the search, so you can quickly start searching for whatever you want. Super nice. Okay, time to continue. The next improvement is again related to the UI list. Now you can, because when you use the grid layout, now you can left and right navigate. You can click, use the left and right arrows to navigate left and right. And this one is made by Nathan Craddock. I haven't seen you forever around here, so it's good to see a patch by you here. The next improvement is also related to the UI list, but now you can specify tooltips via Python scripts. Again, this is great for your add-on creators. You can add here. There is even an example. Again, the links are in the description. How to add tooltips, custom tooltips to your UI lists. Again, another one. You can drag and activate an icon in your UI list. This is used by the asset browser. I showed it last week, that you can click on an icon on the UI list and then drag left or right to change a value, whatever value. In the post library case is the blending between the pose that you clicked on and the current pose of your character. You can use that for anything. If you use, I don't know, you could use it for materials, right? So yeah. The next improvement, again, new button type for the preview tiles. This is more like, again, this is more back end work, but this one is not. Auto scroll to keep active the text buttons in the view. So if you're renaming something, or if you are working on an asset in the list that is not in the view, now Blender is gonna auto scroll, which is always handy. Oh, and then also for Control F. So if you start searching, it's gonna find the item. It's gonna scroll. That's so cool. You know what else is cool? Is when community contributions, especially those paper cuts that fix little annoyances in Blender here and there, are tackled. Such as this one from 2020. Paper cut, flip driver debug UI. So in a long time ago, back in Blender 2.91, this user, which I'm gonna name Red Mser, submitted this little paper cut. It looked so like, I don't know why Blender was like this before. What is this? Well, this is the cursor. This is when you select a vertex, for example, in the graph editor, it would tell you the position in the horizontal axis and the vertical axis, but the line was going down when the numbers are up. So such a small change He fixed it, so now it goes up. It's such a small thing. Even made it so it takes the actual width of the lines, so it looks better in high resolution, high DPIs, or if you change the line width in Blender user preferences. So this is now in master, so thank you Remens R, and thank you Hans for pushing this to master. There is a change. There is a change in the transfer operator that used to be in the D key for the last release, and also for a while the D key was a bit of an issue because it was also conflicting with the annotate tool. If you press the D key and the annotate, it would be a bit messy. You didn't know what you were pressing, basically tapping. Now it's Alt Q, so should be easier. That one is on press, so at the moment that you press it, it will activate. You don't have to wait for a random amount of time to release. So it should be faster, even though it has a modifier key, the Alt key, should be faster. And speaking of shortcuts, now the snapping in the sequencer is mapped to Shift Tab, same shortcut that is used elsewhere for snapping anywhere in Blender, like the 3D view or the UV editor. Woof, okay. Time to breathe a little bit and continue, because we still have more in this case. The video sequence editor speed effect, the nightmare of UI that little effect was in the past, has been solved apparently. The layout has been updated, and the labels also have been updated. So now when you use it, you have an option to choose between 4 modes. These 4 modes allows you to change allows you to change between multiply, stretch, frame number if you want to be specific, or the length. This should make things a bit more understandable. Before, there was an option to scale to the length, which you would disable. It was a bit of a mess. Now this one drop down with a value should make things a lot easier. There is also some discussion going on about, I don't know if it's in this patch, but there are improvements coming regarding the curve drawing here for the speed, but that's not in master. It was added to master and then it was reverted because it wasn't completely reviewed yet. But you know what? It was reviewed and it's now in master. It's a little bit of XR or VR in Blender. This improvement brings the space improvement. What is the space improvements? Well, now for position tracking, not only you have position tracking, but you can also now have absolute tracking. So what is this? Well, this commit improves the control over the XR reference space by using the stage reference space, so like the user defined tracking bound. So when you mark and you define your space, that one, instead of the position that it said when you launch the application, when you launch the VR session. It adds an absolute tracking session option to skip applying the eye offsets that are normally added for placing users exactly at the landmarks. This is only in the add-on, the regular add-on next to the position tracking. Now you also have absolute tracking. It's super nice. When are you going to use this? Well, it can be useful for applications that use external tracking systems, and those that primarily only need to use the controllers and not the headset, such as motion capture. In motion capture, you only need the controller, so you only need the points reference, but not the position, the camera of the headset. So super handy. So thank you, Peter Kim, and there is more on the way for this. Okay, a bit of potpourri section. This I didn't know exactly where to put it. It's an update in the Weld Modifier that now has a loose edges option. This improves the cloth modeling workflow by allowing you to weld only the edges that are used for the sewing forces. Super nice. New feature for the Weld modifier. Frederick Hanson. Thank you, Frederick. A few fixes and I'm almost done. So a few fixes that are worth noting. This one, for example, by Paul Golter from the Blender Animation Studio. He made he fixed the export of RST, of subtitles in Blender, to make it oh, my doorbell, to make it follow the and now I got distracted. Okay, when you export the RST, the subtitles, the position, if you have multiple texts, the position of it will be random on export, which is not ideal. Now it's gonna follow the position or the order that the stripes have. Even the music stopped. I don't know if I should get that. I hope nothing urgent. And okay, next is the, I think that it's all for the, yeah, and I think this is Paul's first commit, so congrats, Paul. The other improvement is it's a fix and a feature that now allows you to keyframe the vertex math in closed simulation. This is related even to the previous change. Updated vertex weight between the simulation steps if they have changed. This allows for animated vertex weight in cloth simulation. Thank you, Robert Sheldon, for that. And speaking of the video sequence editor, when you paste a strip is now being made active, so you know where you are in the world. Sometimes it would happen that if you have a big edit, you paste something and then where is it? Or yeah, you would see the settings of the previous and not the newly added strip. Public service announcement. If you save a file with Blender 3.0 alpha, like a recent one, do not open with 2.93, because if you save the file there, it's gonna lose some data. What data? The vertex groups names of the objects. So it's something to keep in mind. Also, it's not a good idea, never ever, to start switching versions between 3.0 and 2.90. It's if you go forward, just keep going forward, I would say. Okay, the new changes. Okay, I'm almost done. Add-ons. The box deform. Oh yeah, this is actually a cool one. Grease pencil users. The Grease Pencil Tools add-on now, the feature Box Deform, which was already there for a while, now supports with multiple edit. So yay for that. Riggers. Okay, riggers. Now you can add a custom root bone to Rigify, to the meta rig of Rigify. That again, long-awaited feature by many. And also now another update for Rigify, add utilities for working with the rig instance parent chains. And last but not least, I want to have time for questions too, otherwise I don't have. The last one, it's for add-on creators that are moving their GPU related add-ons, or like that use that part of the GPU and are moving it to the Pi GPU. There is a new method that has been requested by the users. It's called GPU frame buffer red depth. This apparently was requested by a lot of people to the new API, but it's mainly as a reminder that if you have these kind of issues that will help you move the add-ons to a newer version, please speak out, get in on Blender chat, on Blender coders, or on Python on Blender chat if you need to. And that is all. Actually, I have some updates regarding Cycles X, but I don't know if we don't have a lot of time. This one is very exciting because OpenCL has been finally removed. It wasn't enabled anyway, it wasn't being used, but it has been wiped out from Cycles X, so that makes some room for more updates, and I'm gonna mention something about it. Don't go nuts yet. The optics has been updated. 7.3 is the minimum version for Cycles X now. and the shadow catcher now works when the shadow catcher is behind a transparent object, both for the regular transparent BSDF and the glass BSDF should be improved with this. And again, I said, yeah, that OpenCL has been removed from cycles to make room for some people, and some people say RIP AMD. No, it's not RIP AMD. If you go to the dev talk, like the place where developers talk, and check out the meeting notes of the Blender development, other meeting notes, and check out the latest Blender rendering module meeting notes, you're gonna find some pretty neat conversation here. Cycles. AMD is making good progress on their HIP implementation of Cycles X for Windows and Linux, and they have images rendering. Yeah, that should make you all get the pitchforks down. Isn't it great? Cycles developers are expected to have access to drivers and a patch for testing in mid to late August. It's unclear if this can make it to 3.0. If not, we aim to have experimental builds available around the time of 3.0. But that is fantastic, fantastic news. If you don't know what HIP means, HIP computer, no, compute here, for example. Let's here. So you can read more about it here, but basically would make it work. Would make it work like if CUDA, like if we had CUDA. Developers can specialize for the platform CUDA or AMD, but using this is fantastic. It's great news. So that is all. Okay, we have a full 5 minutes for questions. I'm gonna extend it a bit more because you guys and girls deserve it. Okay, let's open, and here, let's go update the page. See what you guys and girls. I always try to say guys and girls. And I don't see many girls here. In the Blender Hoy, in the Spanish one, we are seeing a lot more girls, women in the chat, which is fantastic. In the community and sharing results and everything, like renders and contests and more involvement. That is awesome. I don't know if that's the case in the English one. I hope it is. Let's see. Okay, first question by Antoine Baga. Okay, I'm gonna switch. Is your work on the interface still relevant for the Blender 3.0 series? This one in particular. Well, I want to work on it. I want to still do it. I don't know if for 3.0. Hopefully, yes. But yeah, I want to have it. I think there are some things to improve from here still, but overall it's better than what we have at the moment. The main grip I have with this is that that some nodes, for example here with the background being bright, it's good at this distance, but it's limiting because you can't have all the colors you want for this node. For example, you can't theme it in any color you want. It has to be a color that is readable with white text on top, for example, if it can be very bright. So if you have this, then you're allowed to have brighter colors, which will make it more readable at a distance. I also think having the colored wires, will be awesome. Like especially if we get to have this blending between one color and the other, I think it's gonna look much better than just the pure white. So yeah, I still want to work on this, get it somehow to 3.0, maybe 3.1, 3.0 should be 3.0. Next question by Blender Defender. Hey, how can I make a progress bar in Blender Python? I don't think it's available yet, the progress bar. I think There's been a discussion for a while. Hi again, Pablo. Hi, quick question. Already posted in right-click select, but happy to hear your opinion. As usual, it's production-oriented question proposal. As we all know, Blender Video Sequencer can take scenes as strips and render them out, but the settings of those scenes are the ones of the scene we're using in the Blender Sequencer. Wouldn't it be cool if we could have a checkbox for using the scene, strip, render, and output settings? It shouldn't be that hard, I guess. Probably some stuff like transitions, etc. should be disabled, or maybe it should be able to export only images formats. Well, it can be tricky to implement. Like in the sequencer, if I have a like when I render in the sequencer, here this will output a video, right? So what is the size of the video? If the scene is suddenly 4K and then another scene is 1K, what is the size of the final video in that case? That's a tricky part. I think for render settings it will be good, but for output settings, I don't know if it's if it would be easy. How easy would it be? It needs design. That's one of the things that sound very obvious, but it needs design, not as in like drawing design, but as in write down a bunch of use cases or user stories, they are called, and explain what would happen in each situation. Okay, let's see. Hi Pablo, I know what was the VSR render manager? Okay, so this is the proposal. By the way, did you know that well, no, you probably didn't. In right-click select this weekend, Francesco and I added a new feature where you can have when you can mark, well, actually if you are a moderator, you can mark a build proposal idea as duplicate. So if you have, I think this one, yeah, this one has a duplicate, for example, which is a modifier stack, this one. So yeah, there are many now proposals that can be marked as duplicate. We're doing it as we can, but yeah, that's a long-awaited feature. I tweeted about it, by the way, on the Twitter of Blender.Today. Feel free to follow if you are into Blender news. Here, this is the example using the blur in cycles as an example. Okay, next feature by Alex. The feature question, I'm sure you know about the grouping request. However, I keep hearing people giving the reasoning that Blender collections allow objects to be in many collections at the same time, but none has explained how that's beneficial for modeling or rendering or anything else. And I haven't seen any video explain or use this feature of having multiple objects. Well, for rendering, that is very useful. For having the same, or for duplies, for example, for having distribution, like particle distribution or scattering, sharing the objects in multiple collections. Personally, I think it makes the outliner more confusing, so maybe it's not bad to turn collections into real groups and drop this excuse of not having objects in different collections. That's not practical at all. I don't think it's an excuse, but it needs to be discussed. The collection could be could have an option, right, to become exclusive, and the objects that are there are not allowed to be in other collections. Maybe. Next. Hello Pablo, I am the first, it's the first time here in the new Blender community. Really? It's been that long. Momotron. And it's so beautiful. It's even more beautiful than Jesus. What does Tom Rosendahl think about the new Blender community page? I don't think he even seen it. Did he created a profile here? I don't think he hangouts much here. Super busy with other stuff. Just so that someone is working on rigging nodes. It looks so good and it has potential to kill No, it's nothing, no need to kill anything here. What does Jacques Luc think about the rigging nodes? And what does Jacques Luc think about Soar Car? We need to ask him, I guess. Yeah, I'm not sure. We need to ask him. He's usually super positive with all the different node systems out there. He even, well, he made animation nodes, and we always think about when working on geometry nodes, like try to think of the equivalents in animation nodes or in Sverchok, for example. The next question, Mileporte. Oh, it's okay. Let's do 5 more because it's already 6:05 here. Destructive extrude. Hi Pablo. Many times you said about how the code in Blender has to be well tested before it is released, then maintained and so on. But unlucky, a well-known buggy operator still comes with Blender, the Extrude Manifold. So you can see it doesn't erase the geometry as intended. Here's a brief explanation about all the issues this operator causes. In this thread, a way better implementation. Yeah, I remember this. He explains why it hasn't been merged into master. Some time ago, he presented a new idea to add and subtract prismatic. So any news about this feature? I mean, I think you cover it all. Basically, you describe the issue. You describe how one of the core Blender developers, Germano Cavalcante, explains why it hasn't been merged in master, and there is a new operator here. So is this a patch? Yeah. I guess all the updates are here. I haven't heard about this. I remember the discussion here. It's useful. This patch is still limited. It leaves loose edges. Only works in simple geometry. Some UVs are lost. Does not snap. So, and there is this new one. There are plans to remake a complete operator. Okay, so there are plans. It will not be a simple task. So it may take some time to be implemented. Yeah, that is all I know about it. But feel free to ask again, like if this hasn't been discussed in September last year, I would say it's not too much to ask, like, hey guys, because it's almost been 1 year. Next question, number 4. Hey Pablo, I hope you're having a great day. First of all, massive thanks to the developers for the contest update, and for that we can't be thankful enough. Can't wait for the upcoming features like node-based particle systems and physics, but also, in my humble opinion, underlying core problems and missing features should get attention and improvements as well. Really appreciate the mesh editing optimization. It's night and day. Scroll bar in the outliner. For example, working with high... Is it from the same question? Okay, let's see. Working with high resolution PBR texture. I hope it's just not me or my PC, but working with high res textures makes Blender very unstable, and it goes to not responding mode frequently. And when I have all the maps connected, it straight up takes 16 gigs of RAM. So will working with high res textures get any improvements in the future? I would say, like, well, Blender itself, just dealing with textures is already slow. And also, what are we talking about here? Is it like cycles or is it Eevee? But the entire texture management workflow has to be, like, for painting especially, like everything that has to do with painting and textures has to be worked on and will be worked on, despite companies backing up Blender in some areas. Also, groups. At this point, I've seen at least a lot of people complaining about lacks of group and some weirdness in Blender's hierarchy. Please, for God's sake, put groups in Blender. It's almost a deal breaker for pros switching to Blender. And yeah, we just discussed this before. Sometimes artists just have to use other software just so things work well down the line. And the artist I'm talking about, this guy, he made this transformer in the movie. Massive thanks for everything. Yeah, again, this has been discussed in the past. Most proposals involving collections fail to take into consideration that an object can exist in multiple collections. Do you think Blender needs a separate concept of groups that does not involve collections instead of everyone suggesting that collections become groups? I don't know. I don't personally. I don't know. It's tricky. I would prefer to improve collections and to allow having an origin and transforms and selecting than adding yet another layer of hierarchies such as groups, especially because when you like collections are handy like for any like in the grease pencil modifiers or when any kind of modifiers when using for example geometry nodes for duplicating, when using particles, when exporting, when importing stuff, then you will have to like I bet that the moment you add groups, people will want to export groups, and now it's also export collections, and then when you add a feature for collections or duplicate collections, then they will want to duplicate groups as well. So then you have these two worlds that or overrides, material overrides, collection overrides, well, but I also want group overrides. Well, so collections already work all over the place, but they have these limitations, right? That they don't have an origin, and they can't be selected quickly, for example, and that those could be tackled, and then you will solve many other issues instead of adding yet another layer of a hierarchy. I think it could be made work. Collections could be improved. Here, can we get some more love for the quick favorites? I hope. Being able to add pivot points, workspaces, and also being able to rearrange the list will be awesome. That would be awesome. Yeah, I'm waiting for the day someone gives love to the quick favorites. Like there's people making whole forks of Blender, changing the UI and icons. Why don't they work on the quick favorites? Why don't they just make those little improvements? Why they don't fix the small size in the tabs on the sidebar? So everybody benefits, not forks only, but Blender itself and everybody else. Next question, and the last one in the page, and I think I went over 5 already. So okay, good to see you every Monday, happily sharing Blender updates. Thank you for all the updates and news you share with us. I have a question about the new hair system, and when we can expect the team will start working on it. Last time I saw better solution for hair from Daniel Byston on Blender.Today, only for AAA, can't find more details about it. I think this, because of the way that the nodes workshop went and the hair object went, I think we're gonna see more of that in the 3.0 series. I mean, the hair system, the entire particle system in Blender is outdated already. So I think once the particle nodes gets tackled, the hair system will follow. Hair is a huge project, especially because of the interaction tools, which we don't even have yet for working with geometry nodes. There's no way to preview attributes at the moment in a good way or an easy way. Like there's no overlays for it. There's no tools to work with attributes yet. So I think we are close to start seeing something, but it needs to be planned. Also, the splitting of the modes in Blender needs some work. So I think work around it has to happen for the hair project to take off. Okay. Phew. I think I covered a bunch of questions. I'm already late, as usual. But we saw a bit of everything, right? We saw some improvements. Well, quite some. A factor of 100, according to some in the chat. The performance improvements are night and day for editing, for edit mesh, for the compositor, for cycles, for everything. I can't wait to see how all of that together will feel in the new Blender. There is some users sharing already on Twitter the comparison between edit mode in 2.9 or 2.8 and 3.0, and it is night and day. So super happy about it. There is more to see though, especially subsurf needs to be improved, but there is already, I think that was mentioned in the dev talk as well, right? Okay, this is completely unrelated to this, but benchmarks. Oh, here, yeah, I didn't show it. Well, it was in the same thread about the improvements in the performance on Cycles X and the AMD work on the HIP framework. But there are some tests already going on regarding GPU subdivision improvements, and on a model like Gavi, the one from the Settlers in by the Blender Animation Studio, something that used to go from, or even Rain is it's a character from the Blender Animation Studio that got used a lot for animation, where on 0 subdivision levels it was 23 frames per second, and then it went down to 3 frames per second the moment you enable one level of subdivision. That in using GPU goes down to 19, still not 24, but hey, still good. And the best part is that once that is enabled, going from one level of subdivision to 2 levels of subdivision, it's the same speed, and 3 levels of subdivision is 16 frames per second. So even you could be animating between 2 or 3 levels of subdivision without losing much performance. Again, Gavi, for example, went from 24 to 22 with 1 level of subdivision, and then it drops with CPU. GPU stays 24 frames per second until 4 levels. Suzanne is always 60, but even Suzanne on CPU on a Ryzen 9 slows down after level 4, not anymore. So yeah, this is super exciting. This is one of, if this makes it to 3.0, this will be huge. And Vulkan support is also being worked on. Crazy, no? Crazy to have so much happening lately in terms of performance. Let's do it again. Let's meet again next week at the same place and at the same time, because there's more to go. We are not even in Beacon 2 yet of Blender 3.0. There is still so much more to be added, and hopefully more performance improvements, maybe some USD import sometime soon, some XR improvements. So yeah, stay tuned. See you again, same place, same time, for another episode of Blender Today next week. It's been great. Thanks for staying until the end. See you. Bye.